So it seems like it's been almost forever we've been waiting for this, the K13 R2R. I've been waiting for it for about 2 months now, and it's finally here. It's arrived actually this morning, and yeah, I figured I'd do a quick video about my findings. I've been listening to it all day, and it's actually really good, and I do still have my K11 R2R. Which I actually really liked. The DAC inside this is very good also, and it was actually my preamp at one point before I got the Luxon X9. And I will be doing some comparisons between the K13 R2R and the X9, just talking about the sound differences between them. The K11 R2R, what I really liked about this was how it presents sound to planar magnetics. So I have let's just grab my headphones here. I have the HE1000 SE. Now these are obviously fairly expensive headphones, but if you've got something like the RES Stealth, I had those before these, you've pretty much got 90% of the sound that the HE1000 SE has from the RES Stealth. Highly recommend them at £550. I think they're unbeatable. I also had the Fosi i5, which I did a review of. Check my previous videos. I'll link to them in the description below. And I actually preferred the RES Stealth over the Fosi Audio i5, even though both of them retail currently for the same price. And yeah, so definitely HiFiMANs are a good favourite. I've also been testing the K13 R2R with the Audeze LCD5. Now these are headphones that they don't sound great out of the box. So without EQing, they sound a bit lost in the middle and the upper range. The sibilance is more like a sh rather than a s. And I've talked about this in my previous reviews on these headphones. Great headphones, really good resolution and vocal timbre once you dial in that EQ. Now the K13 R2R does have a 10-band parametric EQ, so you can leverage that PEQ to bring out life from these, but as it stands by default with EQ turned off, these aren't the most resolving or the best with soundstage or detail from mid-range and upwards. So I'd say definitely out of the box without needing any EQ, any of the HiFiMANs, RES Stealth, Ananda Nano, I don't know, Edition XS, HE1000, they're all going to be amazing through both of these headphone amplifiers. And regardless of the cost, I mean, this is £140 at the moment. This is around about £270 in the UK. It's about $330. And this is obviously $1,000, £1,000. So there's a big step difference in price between them. But if I just stick the K11 R2R to the one side for the moment, and what I'm going to do is just turn it on, and then I can talk about some of the menu options. But first off, let me show you the remote control. You actually have, for once, all of the useful controls that you would need on the remote. And this remote is kind of interesting in that it does, if I just show that on the table, it tapers, so it becomes thinner towards the top. But I don't know when manufacturers are going to start making flat bottom remote controls, but when it's flat on the table, pressing buttons is difficult and it wobbles, so you do have to hold it, which is kind of annoying. Alternatively, you can do what I do with most of my remotes, is put these sticky feet on the underside, and it stops them from wobbling, and you can actually use buttons and things like that. So yeah, these are a few quid off Amazon, useful. But yeah, the remote control is good. Underside of the remote control, not so good. And it is infrared, not Bluetooth. Now, I thought initially, when I was looking at photos and things, that the RGB lighting, you could customize the color, but you can't. It's blue when it's at 44 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz. Once you go above 48 kilohertz, then it changes color to yellow. So I've got some B-roll, images and things which I'll fly up here to show what that looks like. What you can customize though is the brightness. So the bottom buttons on here turn off the display, and turn off the RGB lighting. So let's just see if that works here. Yeah, so you can turn off the display and turn off the lighting. And to customize the brightness, you have to go to the left dial here. So you just press it in once, and you can then, if I zoom in, you can then go towards the end where you can change LCD brightness, timeout, RGB brightness. Now RGB1 brightness is the top, and RGB2 brightness is the bottom. So that's the two rings there. And I found 1 is perfectly fine. It's not a distraction or anything when the lights are off. So I've just left them both on 1. You've got a sleep timer, firmware update, reset firmware, and that's it. So the additional options you have are where you can choose your output. So it's headphones out for PO. Preamp is your adjustable volume for the preamp for the XLR outputs and the RC outputs on the back. Then you've got line output, which is fixed volume, which is 100%. Do not activate this by accident because you have a dedicated button for line out as well. So pressing that while something is playing and you've got it connected to your power amp, potentially could blow out your speakers or deafen your ears. So yeah, be careful of that. I'm kind of annoyed that that button is there. It should be a long press or potentially a double press. Next on the menu is the gain setting. So you've got 3 gain values, low, medium, and high. NOS, non-oversampling mode or oversampling mode. I couldn't hear too much of a difference between the two, but I think, to my ears at least anyway in headphones, oversampling mode sounded a little bit more detailed, whereas non-oversampling mode sounded a little bit more laid back. Both of them sound warm and have a lot of musicality to them, so this is going to be a preferential option. Then we've got the gain. Now, I don't have any DSD audio, so I haven't really tried this out. But again, this is probably going to be similar to NOS and oversampling, depending on what your preferences are. And then you've got your EQ on or off. Now, when you cycle the EQ on, you can go through various presets. And then you've got your own user presets at the end. So similar to the K13 series, all of the presets are at towards the beginning of the menu. And then you've got your custom presets towards the end. You can't delete presets that are already built in. You have to cycle all the way through them. So I tend to have EQ off because I only really apply an EQ if there's an issue with a set of speakers or headphones. For example, LCD5, definitely need to EQ them. So really simple menu. Just go back. Single pressing the right button turns the display off and back on. There is no mute option that I could find, at least anyway. And then your rocker is the volume. Now, the volume dial can be operated with one finger, and it is quite notchy. It feels quite good to use. And you can probably hear it. So that's pretty cool. And just turning the left dial will cycle the inputs. And then pressing it in will activate that input. So I'm just going to go back to USB. And that's it. And the wake up time, if it's on off, so if I just turn it off, show you how long it takes to wake up. It's only a few seconds. And that's it. Let's get a little bit of a closer look at the R2R. I do like the little window there, but it does mean you want to keep that on display at all times, so nothing that can be placed on top of it. But in terms of heat, it doesn't really get that hot, to be honest with you. Mildly warm to the touch. And we still retain the same glossy front panel. It's a bit of a fingerprint magnet and scratch magnet as well, so be careful how your fingers are prodding around, because it's easy to scratch it with the headphones connector. So you've got a 4.4 balance output on the left and a 6.35 single-ended on the right. And it is quite easy to connect things to it. So if I just grab my cable and plug it in, really easy. And to remove it, just pull it on the K11 R2R. So if I just get that and press the volume button in, you kind of impress it without it sliding. Whereas on here, no problem at all. So they have fixed the silicone feet on the underside. This is just a pad and it's way too slippery on the K11 R2R. So I'm glad to see they've adjusted that and fixed that issue. In terms of sound, the X9 is my reference point. So the HT1000 SE through the X9, that's basically my benchmark. Really wide soundstage, a lot of detail, all of the characteristics that I like in music, the musicality, the way voices sound, the vocal timbre, everything is just, it's just really, really good. It's warm and smooth, but it's got that upper end detail there, and stereo imaging is also excellent. Very, very close to the X9, which was a bit of a surprise. I was expecting it to be good anyway, but I didn't expect it to be this good. And I think that's owed to the fact that this uses a custom internal switch mode power supply, and it has a more powerful than the K11 R2R headphones amplifier stage as well. So you've got 2.4 watts compared to the 1100, if I remember right, or 1300 from the K11. And the X9 is 3 watts output. I'd say the K13 R2R gets about 90% again to what the X9 is capable of, but it's in the details where the X9 stands out. The upper mid range, the soundstage is slightly wider. Details in vocal timbre, I found that the X9 again does a better job. It just sounds more refined. Again, this is a much more expensive amplifier, so I kind of expect that anyway. It's a Class AB amp with internal linear power supply. For what you're getting for the price here, I think it's really good. The side-mounted USB-C port, you have one at the back as well. I'll show the back in a minute. I found that to be quite useful. So I was initially connecting to my monitor's USB-C port down there and just flying out a lead. So yeah, all of the sound characteristics driving both LCD5 and HE1000 SE. And like I said, if you've got the RES Stealth or Ananda Nanos, you're going to have a similar kind of experience, because those headphones are producing sound that's nearly as good as these are. It's just those final steps of refinement at the top end where HE1000 SE stands on its own. But yeah, I think for the price, definitely an upgrade over the K11 R2R. Better soundstage, better stereo image. Detail is definitely there, and you can definitely hear that. Using it as a preamp to drive my Triangle Comet 40th anniversary, I found that it did a good job. Now the DAC is pretty good and the preamp is pretty good in it anyway, and using it in line out mode and both preamp mode, adjusting the volume through here, had no really audible differences other than controlling the volume through here rather than through the power amp. And what I found was the X9's power amp, or the preamp, sorry, is more detailed. The horn tweeters on here, it just shines more, just sounds more natural and authentic compared to the preamp on here. Although that's not to say this is bad, this is still very good. If I didn't hear the X9 beforehand, and I'd be more than happy with what sound was coming out of these. My PA7 power amp is fairly transparent, so all of the sound characteristics coming through the speakers are going to be denoted by the R2R DAC in here and the preamp stage. So again, really, really good. It won't beat the X9, it was never going to anyway, but as a comparison, given the price difference between the two. So I'd say it's really good for $330 odd or 270 odd pounds. You're getting a really cool looking amp slash headphones amp slash preamp slash DAC, and you've got your XLR outputs and everything on the back. So let's just flip it over and I'll talk about some of the connections on the back. So the K11 R2R's on the top. We never really had balanced outputs at the back on the K11 R2R, and that was something that was missing. And FiiO did say they wanted to deliver the characteristics of the K11 R2R, but with more power and more connectivity options, and we certainly have that here. Now, FiiO do have, and I'll put an image of it up on B-roll right about here somewhere. There is going to be a new linear power supply employing the same design style of the K13 R2R, and it'll just sit on top or underneath. And I'm interested in getting that. But honestly, the sound that I'm hearing from here, if the linear power supply does improve the sound, then this is going to be, or that stack is going to be something really special, because this already sounds amazing as it is. So yeah, if there's anything anyone wants me to check, please leave a comment in the section below, and I'll see what I can do. But so far, I'm very impressed with the K13 R2R. If anything ever happens to my X9, channel fades or something stops working, then I know what I'm going to be replacing it with. But yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already. I've got more stuff coming in to do with audio and video, and some of the gaming stuff related as well. And I'll see you in the next one.